I've never really seen a better adaptation from a novel to a movie than I saw in Hellbound Heart. Hello, it's me, Serial Eater. I'm little again. I like to bounce back and forth between this model and my other models. Anyway, and for once, I'm not lamenting about how bad a book is. Hooray! And in the honor of this, by leaving Dead by Daylight, I guess, I read the novella Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, which is the novella that was preceding the 1987 movie Hellraiser, which Clive Barker also wrote and directed for, which I didn't know until I was writing this script. Now, if you're not familiar with the Hellraiser premise, it's about how a man named Frank, or Frank Cotton, was obsessed with the hedonism in the world, and he really wanted to see what the world had to offer him. He wanted to take it a step further by, summoning otherworldly beings to indulge in the experience. I'm going to talk a bit about the movie and the book because they were both good, especially together since Clive Barker wrote, directed both of these things. Before I get into the book and the movie very specifically, do have to say that Frank Cotton was shown as like the worst kind of person. He literally takes advantage of everyone he's in contact with. And I will say this as a trigger warning because the movie, he does make passes at his niece Kirsty. So if that bothers you, please be aware of it. He's not quiet about how shitty he is as a character, and I don't condone any of that. But it was in the movie, and it felt like it was there for discomfort and shock value, so you don't find Frank Cotton to be likable, I think. And here's the difference. If you wanted to get into Hellraiser but you really can't handle that kind of thing, in the book, Kirsty is not Rory and Julia's stepdaughter, daughter/stepdaughter respectively. So I'm not sure what happened, because in the book, Kirsty's actually Rory's coworker, who has a crush on him, so will often do things for Rory when Rory asks things of her. She also has a boyfriend in the movie named Steve, who's a movie-only character, so I'm not really sure why they put that there, but, I assume they made Kirsty Larry's daughter, because his name is different in the movie, to have some sort of emotional tie. But yeah, Kirsty is not Rory's daughter in the book. She's just a friend of his. Speaking of changes, like I said, there is a few name changes because Rory in the film is Larry. Rory and Larry are the same character, but in the novella, his name is Rory, not Larry. I'm going to put something up here so you can see who I'm talking about, because it's the dad character. During the movie, the male character, main kind of main character in the book, he's not really that important. But I'm not sure why they changed the name of the main male character to Larry in the movie, but I assume maybe it was to appeal to a wider American audience because Larry is such a normal name, and if it was done in the 80s, then maybe that's why, but I'm not sure. I can't speak on that. What I can speak on was how I wasn't fully aware how explicit the movie was supposed to be. Apparently it was enough to have an X rating in the United States, but taking some of the scenes out, like little scenes, including like removing some amount of spanking, apparently made it an R-rated movie instead. Interestingly, there's not a lot of explicit scenes in the book. There's not a lot of direct intercourse descriptions, despite what some might think when they hear an X-rated form of media. It just didn't explain that very deeply. It's not that spicy if you're looking for spice. It's I don't know why people comment down below why booktubers and book talk people use the term spicy. I don't think I'm using it correctly since I'm using the word explicit because it's a horror book and not like a romance. Anyway, not the point. Compared to America, to today's standards of movies and where things fall with that kind of thing, it is a lot more tame. The novella brings something a little extra to the table with the series, honestly, because it's hard to portray something like pain and pleasure through a movie. I'm wondering if that's why the movie was supposed to be more explicit to convey that whole concept a little bit better. But while you're in the book and you're reading the book, it's more like you're an omniscient being, so you can kind of read what these people are feeling directly. The book is really extremely well worded. The writing is excellent. Like 10 out of 10 on the writing. The writing's great. I noticed with a lot of the newer books, they seem not edited. My complaint with like something like Horrid, where I was like, this isn't edited. This wasn't even, it didn't feel like a true attempt at writing something. It just felt like fast fiction, which is funny because I've never heard that term before, but I heard it once when I was listening to another booktuber. They said that it was like new novels that are coming out were like fast fiction, where they would just take the TikTok trends and make sure that they push books out as fast as possible. And I don't think that, even though this book is novella length, that it falls into that kind of fast fiction standing. I think that it is very well worded, well edited, and it was great. I will say the gore is also pretty toned down in the book. I understand that there is gore in it, but it's not splatter. It's not like they're not explaining every, like, I don't know, piece of meat on the screen. And it's well written, but like comparatively, there are books in the movie where you see a character walking around with his like skin off, like where you can see his muscles and like he's red. And in the book, he's usually wrapped up in bandages, so you can't really see that they're flaunting this kind of gore on the regular. It's more like they tried to cover it, but it didn't quite work. And that's kind of where I said before, where it feels like, because it was written, it didn't need to be as crazy. One more thing I wanted to speak on was the La Machard box. Okay. I took French for a really long time in high school and I still can't speak French. Okay, great. Is the puzzle box. Everyone knows what the puzzle box is. It's this. I'm going to put the picture right there. And everyone just kind of fiddles with it to summon the Cenobites. Like, I don't know. Like, they're like, oh, it's a certain way to do it. I'm like, everyone just looks like they're kind of moving every moving piece in the puzzle box to make it work. I don't know. Apparently, there's some way to fix it, but I don't know. In the book, the whole thing was described better. Like, the elements of the box you can see, you can kind of tell that it's evil because it has like ghosts on it. Like, it's described as like having like ghost like figures in the ornate gold filigree and things like that, but it's like in the movie you don't see that. I don't know if you could do that in a movie, and it's definitely not in the 1987 version, but I'm sure they could possibly do it better now. As I was writing this script, I went to watch Hellraiser, the movie, the Hulu exclusive Hellraiser movie from 2022. And I heard that somewhere that it was a reboot and it was supposed to align with the novella, and I was like, wow, I should watch that since I'm watching all of these things. I hated it. I hated it. Let me tell you why. It was nothing like the old movie. It was nothing like the novella. Any of the characters that were in the old movie and the novella, they're not there anymore. They've been replaced by a whole new cast of people. And I wanted to go in that movie really loving it, but I really didn't. The only thing that was kind of similar was that there was some sort of hell priest. I mean, I appreciated that the Hell Priest was androgynous the same way that they were supposed to be in the book. But I guess that's the positive. The whole sexual nature of the Cenobites were completely removed in the 2022 version of the Hellraiser movie. I wanted to see what they could do in a modernized format. I don't know why the decision was to completely just take the sexual nature of the Cenobites out, why that was a choice. But also, Clive Barker didn't work on this movie. You know, he was just based off of his work. One of the biggest criticisms that I usually see about this movie online is that they turn the Cenobites into some sort of crazy, like, killing machines. And basically, yeah, they sure did do that. They just made them into, like, mindless slashers when that kind of wasn't the point to begin with. They were supposed to be gods or some sort of god angel thing. There was an implication that Cenobites could be made from humans, and I was not about it because it seemed kind of weird. I don't know why they went that direction. I assume somebody watched Berserk and went, that's what I want for my Cenobite. I want him to be able to make someone in dire need into... Actually, that's exactly what it was. The 2022 version of Hellraiser really did kind of stack up to Berserk. They had to sacrifice a bunch of people to become a god. That's the end. They removed every sexual implication of anything from it. Everything. They just pulled it all out. I'm going to be honest. The gore, the Cenobites, the art direction, everything was visually delightful. It was great. It was so nice to watch. The story, however, was awful. I hated it. I freaking hated it. I hated that story. Everything else, great. I like looking at it. If I wanted a story like that, I don't know. I'd probably watch something else, honestly, because it was not Hellraiser. It was just a torture fest, and that's really not the point. It was a little bad. And by a little bad, I mean really bad. And, yeah, that's my review of things that were supposedly made off of Hellraiser. Hellbound Heart, good read. 5 out of 5 stars, honestly. I would recommend the book. It's very well written. Definitely give it a look-see. It's pretty short. It's like 200 pages or something. And, yeah, good book. The movie from 1987, I would say that it was a 4-star. I wish they didn't change some things, like the weird family shit that they put in it. I didn't like that, but everything else was basically to the T the same as the book. It was pretty similar. The book just gave you more explanations for feelings, motivations, things like that. It was a good companion piece. The movie from 2022, however, was a 1-star. Terrible, awful, truly. I hated it every second. Well, actually, I would give it a 1-star for the visual because the visual was really cool. I thought all of the visuals were really, really cool. The story and the characters brought it down so bad. I don't appreciate the trend of characters just being straight up unlikable, unrelentingly annoying. I just can't. I can't do it. I hate that. And I don't know. There was like a big span of time where a bunch of these movies were just like, let's make them as annoying as possible. And I was just not about that. It's why I don't like a lot of the newer movies. It's because they're annoying. The other criticism was the implication that the Cenobites were just mindless killing machines, and that's not really the point. If you want to see more of me, I stream most weeknights on twitch.tv/serialeater. If you want a more in-depth schedule, it'll be on my card, and all of that will be linked in the description below. And that's it. Goodbye, Cenobite from Dead by Daylight. I don't even know if you'd be in the Rift. It's too strong for that. Bye, YouTube.